Hey everyone, and welcome to Beyond Belief. I'm really glad you're here. Today, we're driving into something that touches every one of us: relationships, love, and trust. Relationships aren't always straightforward. They're sometimes confusing, sometimes deeply meaningful, sometimes challenging, occasionally heartbreaking, and yes, sometimes uncomfortably awkward. What I've discovered over time is this: real connection doesn't come from control, but from courage. So settle in, make yourself comfortable, grab a cup of coffee or tea, and maybe lean back a little. Today, we're going to explore how courage, vulnerability, and God's love can transform the way we connect with people around us. You know, I've learned trust the hard way, really hard way. There was a time when I wanted to manage everything in my relationships. I analyzed every text, every conversation, every pause, every tone. It was like trying to solve an emotional puzzle with no picture on the box. I remember some close friendships, and I wanted those friendships and relationships to be perfect, safe, predictable. I planned conversations in my head before they happened. I replayed them afterwards. I even convinced myself I could anticipate what they were thinking before they said a word. Spoiler alert, I couldn't. And then life unfolded in a way I hadn't planned. Instead of leaning in, I panicked. I overreacted. I pulled back. And I nearly lost some of those friendships altogether. It hurt, but it also taught me something important. Trust isn't built through control. It's built through courage. The courage to stay present when things feels uncertain. The courage to step forward even when there's a risk of getting hurt. And if you've ever sent one too many messages because you were convinced someone was ignoring you, only to find out they were in the shower, you know exactly what I mean. Relationships are unpredictable. People are complex. Now, Proverbs 3 verse 5 to 6 says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your paths straight." All of your heart. Not just when it feels reasonable. Not just when you have a solid plan. Real trust invites us into uncertainty and asks us to let God lead. So think about a time you tried to control a relationship. How did it feel? What happened? Where might courage have changed the outcome? Relationships require vulnerability, and many of us struggle with intimacy. Not because we don't want connection, but because we've learned to be careful. We've experienced disappointment. We've felt misunderstood. We've opened our hearts before and paid the price for it. So we adapt. We stay close, but not too close. We share parts of ourselves, but keep other parts carefully guarded. We enjoy connection, but hesitate when it starts asking for more. And sometimes, without meaning to, we invite someone into an emotional closeness without being ready for what that closeness might become. We all know someone who's been hurt before, someone who pulls back just when things start to deepen, someone who once said something like, "I don't know if I want love, but I do want connection." And that sentence carries so much truth. Connection matters, and connection always carries risk. Courage is the bridge between walls and closeness. Romans 12 verse 9 to 10 says, "Love must be sincere. Be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourselves." Sincere love, devotion, honor. Those aren't passive ideas. They require courage. And intimacy can feel awkward. If anyone tells you it's effortless, they're either exaggerating or they're a cartoon. Cartoons have it easy. They never wait for someone to text back. So think about the people in your life. Who do you know that has walls up? What could courage allow them, or even you, to do differently this week? There's a moment from a Jay Shetty clip that someone shared with me the other day that puts language to something many of us have felt. He said, "Don't let someone fall in love with you if you're not ready to catch them." Now that line lingers because it isn't harsh, it's honest. And it applies to all of us, men and women alike. We live in a culture that celebrates chemistry but often avoids clarity. We're encouraged to enjoy attention, closeness, and affirmation without always considering the responsibility that comes with it. Being wanted feels good. Being chosen feels meaningful. But when someone leans in with intention, when connection starts asking for consistency, presence, and care, fear can surface. And instead of stepping forward, we step back. Not because we want to hurt anyone, but because we are unsure, unprepared, or afraid of what commitment might require. This is often where hearts quietly get wounded. Now, Scripture tells us in Romans 12:16, live in harmony with one another. Harmony asks for us to be aware, not just of how something feels to us, but of how our actions affect others. This brings us to God's love, because this is where the foundation is laid. God's love isn't controlling. It isn't conditional. It's committed, patient, steady. John tells us there is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear. Fear and love don't share space well. When we root ourselves in God's love, His faithfulness, His courage, His commitment, we're strengthened to love others with the same steadiness. We've all encountered people who've been deeply hurt, and instinctively they try to control situations to protect themselves. And in those moments, God seems to whisper, love is commitment, not control. When we step into that kind of love, relationships don't suddenly become perfect, but they become honest, free, whole. Love without risk wouldn't feel like love at all. Courage is what brings life. So ask yourself, where could God's love empower you to step into courage instead of control? So let's get practical. Where might you be holding up walls instead of setting healthy boundaries? Walls isolate. They say, stay out. Boundaries protect. They say, I need honesty, respect, space. Boundaries allow connections to grow safely. Walls keep everyone at a distance. You can express your needs without shutting people out. You can trust without losing yourself. Courage isn't reckless. It's vulnerability guided by wisdom. So take a while to think about these. Where are you holding back in a relationship? How could a boundary replace a wall? Who might you be able to approach this week, even if your heart feels hesitant? And yes, awkwardness is part of the process. If love wasn't awkward at first, everyone would be married to a cartoon by now. So what do? We choose courage, and we choose grace. The courage to be real, the grace to accept others as they are, the courage to forgive, the grace to forgive ourselves. Colossians 3 verse 12 to 14 reminds us, Clothe yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Bear with each other and forgive one another. And over all these virtues put love, which binds them all together in perfect unity. We all know people who have had relationships restored, families healed, marriages strengthened. Not because anyone was perfect, but because someone had the courage to step in and the grace to step back. That's where trust grows. That's where love flourishes. So may you go into your relationships this week with courage. May you love more than you fear. May you lean on God's strength when your walls feel high. And may your heart be open enough to let someone in without trying to fix everything first. Thank you for listening to Beyond Belief. Share this episode with someone who might need a little courage today. And remember, real connection requires courage, not control. Until next time, God bless.